I feel like I'm like sunken down.
Okay. We're back.
We're back. Is that your cup?
This is my cup.
I'm
I'm gonna start by saying I just had the most delicious apple. Because Mike and Nelly, I know you brought those in, and I know that you're watching.
Were they from him?
Yeah.
Thank you, Mike. And Mike is a frequent watcher.
He is. It was just
And
so delicious.
he shared with us, which I thought was cool, how important and valuable it was to learn from the video we did on working out with your period. And this is working out on your period part 2, or period, and we'll call it the 3 H's. Hormones, hurting, and happiness. So we're gonna crack this subject open again.
Mm-hmm.
And what I'd like to ask you is, we'll go with hormones first. How do you feel, like, what are the differences you feel in and out of the gym compared to when you're not on it?
I think I would just, I want to assume that this is hormonal, but it's a lot of fatigue, like a lot of just feeling like I can usually kick it into gear when I wake up when I'm not on my cycle, and I can like really pull to that, like tap into that, like I can do this, like I'm awake and I feel good, and even like drinking water, drinking coffee, and eating well, like will really get me into like a really good space. But during the time, I just feel like the body feels so different. The body just feels really tired, and it drains me. I don't really feel like myself. So there's a couple of things. It's definitely fatigue. It's definitely feeling just not comfortable in my own body, and also hormonally, I like notice like different things, like my skin, the way that my body fits in clothing. So I would say that those are the 3 things that I feel when I have it versus when I don't have it.
What about how you feel in terms of your physical fitness performance? Is there anything that stands out from like when I'm not on it?
Mm-hmm.
Outside of the gear,
Mm-hmm.
do you feel stronger, weaker? Do you feel like, do certain movements bother you differently? Like things like that?
Yeah, it's interesting that you say that, because I didn't think that certain movements were going to affect it, but one of the ladies that I've been talking to a little bit more was getting upside down. I never noticed it before, and maybe it was just not lining up with the times that I was having it, but getting upside down feels really uncomfortable. It doesn't feel right. It feels like things are shifting, and that was the first, about a month ago is when I experienced it the first time. Strength doesn't seem to affect me. Like, I think that's the thing that I can tap into. Like today when we were squatting, I was like, I had it in my mind that I'll take it a little bit lighter, but I felt really good. It's just the high intensity, and again, it's that fatigue, feeling like, all right, I know I have to take it easy, because especially today and yesterday, I was feeling like a little nauseous. So the intensity of yesterday and the intensity of today, I know I had to pull back because it just didn't feel right. But I'm okay with that, I'm
For
okay
sure.
with like,
You recognize it.
yeah.
What do you think? Last one about hormones. Do you notice anything in the hormonal realm of like wherever you want to take that in terms of and equating it to the gym? Am I more emotional? Am I less emotional? Am I more aware of things? Am I less aware? Like things like that around before, during, and after, compared to when you're not, or is it? I have a pretty good handle on that.
Yeah, I was this morning and yesterday driving in, I found myself going into this place of like somebody is riding too close behind me, and I found myself like boiling or like starting to go into these thoughts of like very disempowering that I know. And I was like, twice I had to sit in my car and just take 3 deep breaths and be like, because I'm usually, I know personally I've worked really, really hard on not being reactive, and the reactiveness showed up.
Well, good on you for taking a moment to, awareness, and then for breath.
I know, because we always joke, and there's things like I'm totally PMSing, and I talk to my girlfriends about it, I talk to other people about it, and it really is a thing, and we joke about it, of course, because you can joke about it. You can make light of it. Maybe that helps some get through it, you know, like being able to relate, being able to, again, bring light to the subject. But there are definitely things that affect your mood and your emotion during that time. And I'm sensitive as it is, but I can feel the sensitivity turn up to about a 10. I was talking to someone this morning, someone in the life class who just came back, and she was telling me the story, and I was like, don't cry. But the, you know, like that almost irritability where I'm like, I joke too, sometimes I'm like, I find myself like nesting, you know, where things will stack and I'll feel like it's starting to feel up here, and I have to remember, like, just relax. And there's, going back to the physical things, like before, a couple of days before, I can feel it through my body because everything is tender. And what I love too is that our nutrition mentor really applauded us for being able to speak openly about this. And again, I know that we can do it in a very joking manner, but it's really nice to be able to like say it out loud, the things that you're feeling. The couple of days before, and God bless Peter, I was like running across the gym, and I was like, oh my gosh, I was like, my boobs hurt so bad for running from across the gym. He's like, why? I'm like, just making my period, and they're just so tender. And he was like, I'm sorry that you have to experience that. And so I was like, you know, again, being open like that and actually saying how you feel, it's a real thing.
Yeah, and I'm sure it felt good to share it and to be received, right?
For sure.
You kind of right there went into something that I wanted to talk about in the realm of like hurting. You know, maybe you're feeling like, oh, like you said, like my chest hurts just moving in a light jog across the gym. What differences do you notice in your body from when I'm not on it that don't feel optimal, that there's an awareness around? You mentioned like my chest, you mentioned maybe being upside down, you know. I think we spoke earlier this morning, and you were like, the low part of my abdomen, you know, so like those sorts of things, and then coming into a working out environment.
I know that there's an extreme, and you know the scale goes across. Sometimes there's manageable symptoms, and then there's sometimes that are just like outside. But I personally experience my body temperature goes through the roof. I sweat all day long. I'm just really, really hot. It sounds terrible, but I just get really bad headaches. I get very bad cramping. I get pain in my lower abdominal into my legs, my knees. And when asking my doctor about that, that was a symptom of endometriosis, which is very like nervy pain, so like electrical pain. But those are the tenderness things, the things that feel so tender and so painful that sometimes it's really, I woke up this morning very early, like 4 o'clock in the morning, in pain. I'm sitting there and I'm like, it could become very frustrating to me that I don't have control over this, and that the only things that can control it are things that I don't want to do. And I want to look outside and be resourceful like you and I were texting, and because it doesn't feel good. And I can go and tell myself a story, not tell myself a story, but like go to the place where 3 to 5 days a month I'm extremely uncomfortable and I'm in pain. And that's just something that I just really want to work to remedy.
Yeah. Which brings us to the third H, happiness. And we were texting this morning as I was checking in on you, and I thought this was so great, and I was like, man, this would be really great to bring full circle, is happiness, which I would imagine a person or women in your position could be challenged to find happiness in such a challenging time. So what things have you done, do you do, or have you found to be successful to shift maybe the mind, maybe elements of the body that can take us out of frustration and shift us back into maybe a slightly better state? Like what sorts of things, mentally, physically?
There's a couple of things. One is that the last time you and I talked, and you suggested about getting ahead of it a couple days before and building up my iron intake. That was number one. So I've been paying attention to that, and I think it's only been 2 months maybe. And I see a slight difference, like just the awareness around that, and being like, okay, I'm gonna start eating a little bit more red meat, a little bit more green intake, just to manage the fatigue, because I think that's like what happens. Your iron levels drop and you get extremely tired. So just having that idea and that habit implementing has been helpful in that I'm like, okay, I'm gonna get ready for what my body is gonna feel like in the next couple days. The number two, and again we can make light of this, is that the fact that I'm able to function in this state, or like, you know, and this is what it is. Like we're women. This is what happens to our bodies once a month, and I think it's pretty incredible to know that I came here and I can still lift and I can still move my body and I can still feel good and under, you know, what I'm feeling. You know what I mean? So that kind of brings a little bit empowerment, which can lead to happiness. And the other is, again, I keep bringing it up, but the fact that we can relate and talk about it openly, I think it's really important, because from my history, it was playing sports and dancing. It's you have to hide it, and you have to feel like, you know, you hide it, and maybe you don't talk about it, you don't speak about it in some environments. And I think it's really important here, and I think that it makes the ladies in here feel like, oh yeah, I can do this, and I can feel. I know how I'm feeling walking in, but I can still, my body is amazing and can still do these things. So those would be the two that would like really stick out to me. And the other is listening to my body.
Yeah.
That makes me happy.
Which I wanted to ask you about, which I think would be really helpful for other women in fitness, especially like I know you well enough to know, like Saturday when we worked out. Like I know the gears of Abby, and sometimes when we often partner up almost every Saturday and we do a workout, and you know, across our time we've gone to the far end of the spectrum, and you know, and so I know, and with almost without having to ask, and I think, you know, from your perspective, sharing, knowing as a human who does fitness, depending on you know, if you're doing something like this, which, you know, I'm sure our audience relates. Having gears, and like we're doing a lot of intervals which are tough, and example of that Saturday is like I noticed giving myself grace, not pushing to fifth gear, maybe not living in fourth gear, maybe third gear was most optimal for me today, and that's completely okay. I'm happy I moved my body, I feel good moving my body, or I'm happy to have moved my body, despite maybe what I was feeling. And even today, like noticing I still can feel really, really strong, but maybe it's those like mixed modal things that challenge me in positions, getting out of breath, challenge my body in certain ways, where am I tracking that strength can kind of feel like it's there in a similar proximity, yet when we go mixed modal, being flexible with yourself, with the gear that you expect of yourself, where it's like, say you and I can partner up and it's like, you know, if it's a tough workout and you want to go to gear 5, but you know it's best for gear 3, not putting those expectations on yourself, yourself for the team, and being transparent with where you're at for today. I think you do a really good job at that. I don't know if you want to share anything on that.
Yeah, I think one comes with experience in it as well, and two, it's I know that I can live, again, taking maybe like 2 or 3 days and pulling back on training is not going to put a dent in my fitness or my strength in the larger picture. So I feel good doing that, and I still got really sweaty and I felt really good, and I can pick a win, which was higher back jumps felt so good. So, you know, just pulling that seed out and being like, all right, what's a win for today? A win for today is that I moved at the intensity that the stimulus that was the intent, and I'm okay with like, again, pulling back, because I don't want to feel like dead after and then have to recover. It's almost like being, I don't want to compare it to being sick, but it's almost like, you know, if you're feeling under the weather and you're pushing it, your body, your immune system is not going to fight as hard. So I think it's really great too that there's so many things, there's so many resources out there now too, where we talked about on a coach's chat not too far back about using Instagram for resources and for tools. And I kind of did like a deep dive into other like holistic approaches. And there's so much information out there, and I love that so much. So I told you, like 4 o'clock in the morning, I was awake and I took this health assessment for like an herbal supplement, like an elixir, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna try this.
Experiment.
Because I'm not one to live on Tylenol and like painkillers, because I just think it's like, but to get ahead of pain and be able to just like function in a daily life, to come to work and be able to like show up for people and do what you love every single day and see your friends, like it takes some of that. So I would just rather get ahead of it in again a holistic way. So but I really do love that there's so many things out there, because again, joking with some people, like we can talk about this so much, I don't think that we really learn about our bodies. We don't know a lot about our bodies, and I want to know more. I want to know why. I want to know the actual like diagnosis of certain things that are given to me, and so I think learning about it more and more and sharing within your circle is extremely important, versus this is happening again, and we can go into this place of like darkness where getting in front of it and just owning what we know and then being empowered by it. So
Lovely.
yeah,
Well, thank you for sharing.
thank you, and thank you for the app listening.